We have forgotten all the past. We have forgotten all the family members who've deceased and who've left this earth. It's time for us to come back and remember all of them so that they can be remembered in the future. If we don't do it now, they'll be lost forever.
Right. So, Manoj, can you tell us about yourself? What is your background?
Right. So my journey started a long time ago as a developer. I started developing software. From software, I started selling things. From selling things, I started training people. From training people, I got back into developing. And I've had a restaurant. I've owned a restaurant. On top of that, then I started developing more applications and more websites. And then eventually came to the development of LyfeIndex.com. Now, a lot of people mistake life with LIFE, but we are LYFE index.com. And that's where it started from. The reason behind the little bring this life index to life was because of my mom. Now, my mom passed away 3 years ago, and losing her was a very difficult time. It was very difficult for me to deal with that time. I've seen her go away. I've taken care of her during that time. I was there with her when she went away, but did not get to see the last of her because of COVID reasons.
Yeah, I was just saying that I remember you told me about that years ago, that your mom had your mom was ill and what you were going through and how that has affected you mentally at the time. How does this tie into creation of Life Index after she passed?
Right. After she passed, that's where it was that I did not want her to be lost in time because the amount of struggle she's gone with me, whereas both my brothers, both are doctors in the United States, they're both very well settled. So am I. But at the end of the day, the thing is that did she struggle with him? She might have to a certain extent, but with me, she did the maximum. I used to get hurt every day. I was in some or the other thing at the hospital for some or the other case. And I've seen my dad and mom every time I would go in for a surgery. The last thing I see them before I'm sedated is them. The first thing I see them out of the surgery when my eyes open up are my dad and mom. And I remember those moments. I remember that, they would just bring me food. They would take care of me. They've been the best parents. So how can I forget that lady? How could I have her forgotten in history? As a son, what have I done for her? Have I done anything unusual? Have I given her a status? No. At the end of the day, I have come, I will go. The minute I go, her history is lost. Her story is lost. And that's where Life Index is brought in, that we leave her story, we leave her details about who she was, what did she do, where did she come from, the struggle she went through, and the disease she went away with. So that's one thing. The other thing is also talking about her story. That would also give my future generation sense of belonging, sense of community that brings back.
So I see this more of a personal tie into from what you've been through and transforming that into the website which you've now built. What is this website itself? What does it do?
Okay. So on Life Index, as of now, if you go on Life Index, all you have to do is click on add memorial, put in your name, put in your email address. We send you the form. You fill the form. Once you fill the form, it will come back to us. And then the process starts from there. But the process is that you want to commemorate your deceased family members. As of now, there's no place that you have anything to commemorate people for. You might build a statue. You might get a little bench somewhere. But will that bench tell the story to the people who's sitting on it? They might see the name and they will ignore it. Will your family members, let's say your family might be scattered all across the world. My family is scattered all across the world. Will they ever get to sit on that bench? Will they ever get to, relive that moment that, wow, this is my mom. This is my mom's name. Or this is my grandmother's name. And so the history goes on. They won't. But if you look at history, and we come back to that of history chapters, you look kings, queens, presidents, prime ministers, everybody's mentioned. But are we mentioned? Maybe we might not have done for the nation, but as a family, have they done enough? I think they've done more than enough. And that's why we're here. And that's where the entire sense of commemorating them or immortalizing them comes in. But it's very important we immortalize these beings. They've come, they've lived. It's just that they're not dust.
So I know you said that this is a one of a kind website or platform. So
Sure.
I have come across a
Right.
website that actually um, promotes life, afterlife, and memorials in form of booklets. So what those do
Okay.
is they send you a booklet where you can write a biography or you can write a history about your loved ones. How does this
Okay.
how is this distinct from those sort of
Okay.
memorial books? And also, we have Wikipedia where people can go on Wikipedia, for example, and just put in their own stories, or other people can write stories on Wikipedia. How is this different, and what does it do differently to all of these other medias where you can do just about the same thing?
So if you look at Wikipedia, let's start off with Wikipedia. Wikipedia being a big organization, it's been there for ages, but it
Yeah,
deals with both living and dead. Now, it will take anything. It's more like being on another Facebook. So they're in competition. We're not in competition with any one of them. Now, if you look at Wikipedia, it only takes the rich and famous. Are we so rich and famous? Am I willing to pay every day, every month, so much of money? No, maybe not. But then if you are capable, you can definitely go and use it. But then how long will your data survive over there? What all kind of data will survive over there? That's the first question. Second, you came back, you spoke about that book. Now, when we write any book, any journal, now if that journal remains with us, how long does that journal remains with us? Let's say you move from a country to country. Can that journal remain with you? Will you pack it along with you? Will it be passed on from person to person? And every time anything which is written on paper, it deteriorates over a period of time and everything will vanish or it'll
I
be lost. And if it's lost, then how do I get back to it? And on top of that, not somebody who's writing it for me. Let's say if I give you the story to write about my mom, will you talk about all the facts or all my emotions? No, you will write your part of it. So it's not the actual truth about my mom. And it's not every fact, every little story about her, every little detail about her. It'll just be a story. And this could be fabricated. It could just be, making it larger than life. We're talking about true facts over here. Okay. And the other thing is that when you start writing such things, they don't get passed on. Such as, let's say you take pictures on your phone. How many times do you look at those pictures? And once you look at those pictures and they get locked under a certain system, let's say on cloud or anything, but then let's say you lose the phone. If you've lost the phone, which means if you know the username and password and you can get back to it, you get back to it, you retrieve everything. But if you can't, which means you've lost those pictures again. But then let's say I meet with an accident, I've had a phone, I've had pictures in there. And if I've met with an accident and nobody else knows the password and username to it, will they be able to access those pictures again? No, they will not be. So, which means that data is lost again. And story is not only about pictures. You can store as many pictures as you want, but will it tell you the story about this person is the big thing. Every time you read a history book, you get to know more about that personality. Let's say if you read about let's say for Diana, every time you read about Diana, you get to know more about it, and you start, adding more things in your own head, right? The same way, and that's not the same with pictures. If you just had pictures of Diana, you might say, okay, beautiful, but what beyond that? Will it tell you story? No, it won't.
absolutely thank you for that. This question
No
came to
worries.
when as you were talking along. Are you already having traffic on this website? Is this just new, or are you
Okay.
already having traffic? What has been the success stories around it?
So we built it. It took us a long time to build it. Once it was built, we launched it about roughly over a month and a half now. And since 1.5 months, it's been out in the market, we've got a good amount of traffic. And we've got people from India, Nigeria, UK, United States, Iran, Syria, people from all different nations, Malaysia, Singapore, people from different nations are coming across to put details of deceased family members. And yes, we've got a good amount of traffic and we're enjoying that. As of now, we've got 5,666 people as of today, as of right now
That's
on
interesting.
it who've entered details. And
Because
one more beautiful thing about this is that when somebody passes away, you as a family member or who's an acquaintance, I remember the story. It comes back to me is there was this kid who used to work as an intern for me. And when I found out that he died, I wanted to go back and say things to his parents. I don't know his parents. I don't know who they are, where they are. So I could not reach out, but I wanted to say something. And if there was a website like this, and if somebody had put details of his, I could have gone back and put something, my last thoughts about him. And just imagine his kids or his great grandkids will come and read that, the kind of impact they will have. And that's what our website does as well, that it leaves an impact on future generations. And that's where, when if you go on my mom's profile, you'll see people have started leaving messages.
Oh, do you have that functionality as well to leave messages? And
Yes, we do.
um,
Yes, we do. Yeah.
I think that's amazing. What sort of
Oh,
what
yes, we do. We've got, like, as I said,
memorials are people living there at the moment? Is it for what is the popular ones?
see, there's no popularity. There's no contest over there.
Okay.
When somebody is gone, it's not Facebook. We're not a popularity contest. It's about whoever comes back, whoever's writing, whoever is distributing it out to somebody. So there was this gentleman who died on the 17th of January, 2024. His son, he came back. He put details about his father. His father was in the military, and he was a colonel in the military. And he wrote his story. And I was reading his story today, and I went back and I started looking. His colleagues have come back and started posting stories about him as well, putting information, putting loads of things that what they feel and what they will miss about him.
Right. So how do you intend to grow a website like this? Because of course it's a website that is very niche, and um it's
You're
not a
right.
lot of them out there. So how do you intend to scale this to a big audience, to a wider audience in terms of marketing?
As of now, we've been marketing. We've been in the newspapers across India.
How do you reach
We've
out to
already been given a Claude's icon of Asia, and we've got loads of other things happening. So we are going out. We will go out to. As of now, it's been word of mouth, and that word of mouth is like fire, and that's the thing that we need because right now we want to. That's one of the reasons why we've kept it very easy and simple. So on top of that, you don't have to create a username. Every time you start creating usernames, you're like, I'm tired of creating usernames. I'm personally tired. I'm not sure about you, Kenny, but I am tired. And once you create that username with that same email, I could create another email and I could create 10,000 accounts. And every time that 10,000 accounts are created, those accounts are fake. But that's one thing about our system. It is not a fake system. It is a genuine. It is for people who've deceased. And that's why we're spreading like fire. And if we could spread like fire within 1.5 months, over a period of time, it's word of mouth. And again, we're coming back to marketing. Yes, we are going out to people. We are doing social media. We're going out to Facebook. We're going out Instagram. But those things don't really work that well. But we've gone out on LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn's doing very well for us. People are coming back again. And again, people who've deceased and who've see it happening, they can go out to other people, promote it.
Right. That's lovely to know. Um, so going back to how you started, could you share some of your challenges? What has been your greatest challenge in starting this? And of course, are there other ways that you're looking to mitigate any sort of risk for future replication of the site from other people?
I faced loads of challenges when I started building it. I would go out to people, start talking about it, and I'd be like, nobody will use it. Why would somebody use it? So that was a major challenge. And when you hear those kind of things, that pushes you back all the way right to the beginning and that on the drawing table. What am I not doing right? What will happen? And that's where the challenges came in. I said, I want to make this better. I want to make this more user friendly. And again, that's where we came back and said no username, no passwords, so that it can be accessible by everybody. Tomorrow you go away, it can be accessible by your family members, or tomorrow you go away, it's accessible by all your friends across the world or people you've met. Kenny, I don't know if you realize this. Every time we are born, every human that's born, we at least touch million lives in that lifespan. And that either we've smiled at them, we've shaken hands with them, we've said hello to them. At least we touch million lives. And out of those million lives, at least 10 people will want to come back and say something nice about you after you're gone. And that's what this place is all about. As far as challenges in the future and where will we go, everything gets replicated. Everything becomes something or the other. Amazon has so many other replicates across the world. Nobody can stop that. But we have put that in place. We've gone out and already put in for patent rights for it. So even if a patent comes in, we're still liable for the next 20 years. Somebody can go out and after 20 years replicate it, come up with something else. But we've got the data and we've got something to prove that, you know what, we're doing better than everybody else. And, Facebook started with a concept and they grew over a period of time. And that's how everybody grows.
So is this a lifelong website, if I may ask, or do you have an exit strategy? For example, you want to grow to an X amount of users, you want to gather X amount of information, X amount of users on the website and data, and then exit from there? Or is this something that you intend to keep for as long as you want?
Okay. We want it to be forever because at the end of the day, we have people dying every year. Last year in 2023, how many people died across the world? 60.67 million people died last year. So this is a never ending process. And we want it to be there, my kids taking over or it becoming a bigger entity and being run by somebody or the other, but it will keep running.
So you don't have any intention
Go
to
ahead.
sell it to a bigger player. So, for example, you have a bigger organization that comes to you, pop on your media, and just ask you, "Can I buy this business for X millions of money?" And you wouldn't leave it, would you?
I would not leave it, but then my thing is that I would still want to roll in because I have started it. This is my baby. It's like when you give birth to a child, that child is yours. Can you let it be adopted? Even if for certain circumstances you let the child be adopted, do you want to be around that child in that child's life? How that child will be shaped? Yes, that's where I want to be. I want it to be shaped and I want to see the same vision as I have so that it keeps growing. It's for family members. And Penny, I do not touch on one more thing. We put this as at a minimal price. Whereas if you go to other websites, there are other websites like Ancestry and other places. They bring in things, they will do things. But at the end of the day, they charge you £100 for a membership, which is month on month on month, and which keeps going on. Can you keep paying that amount? And that's why we came with a concept, let's have only a one-time charge. The time you are putting the details, that's the only time you charge, and which is only £7. £7. How much do we spend on a funeral every time somebody goes away? That's roughly a minimum of £3,600 across the world. Out of those, the 360 pounds, 3,600 pounds, we're only looking at a very meager amount of it, which is only £7, only one-time payment. After that, your details are there forever for every family member, every friend across the world to see, and you will never have to pay for it. If you're not putting details of anybody, you're not paying anything. If you're putting messages for somebody, you're not paying anything. The only time you're paying is when you're creating a profile for a deceased family member or anybody's family.
Basically, so you're monetizing to use the website. If I were to go on your website and sign up now, so for example, I may want to say, okay, my grandma, I want to create a memorial for her, and I've not seen anyone done that yet. From at least from what I. So if I want to go on your website and I want to create a memorial for my grandmother, am I going to make a payment before I get to use it at all?
So as I said, once you go in, you put in your name, put in your email address, we'll send you the form. You start filling the form. Once you fill the form, that at the end, we go ahead and make the payment. And that's when the form comes back to us once you've made that payment. And that's when we start, because there's a lot of work that goes in the backdrop. There are loads of systems which will research and make sure that there's no other profile which is created over a period of time, or there's nobody else writing something about it, or there's no other duplicate profile, or the things that you've mentioned are with us forever. But then again, why are we charging? Why are we charging a minimal amount? It's because we want to keep doing this forever. We don't want to earn out of it. We want to make sure that this is a community service and not for our own benefits.
And you charge £7 at the moment, is that correct?
Right. Yes. And that's what we intend to charge forever, £7. And that's why even if I give it to a bigger corporation, that'd be the big thing that I don't want it to change it more than £7 because £7, it's not going to hurt somebody's pocket. It's never hurt anybody's pocket. You spend more than that within a month. We're only asking for your entire lifetime for
Mm.
£7.
I agree with that. So, are you doing this on a full-time basis, or is this a part-time basis for you? Because I am looking at that £7 for a growing business, and what comes to my mind is if you're not looking to do this as a full-time, then it may be worth it. Otherwise, if you're charging £7, how do you intend to scale with the £7 you're charging?
We as far as scaling is concerned, it is a website. It is not a store that we opening up next door every time. We're
Mm.
not putting up an infrastructure. We are looking at people. Once we do grow, £7 will give us enough. If we have to get more developers to develop more at the back end, we will get enough to make sure that we're funding our own development team and we'll scaling it up or making changes in the backdrop, becoming better every time. So any website which starts off, it starts at a certain level and we keep increasing. And that amount will help us to do those things. On top of that, it will also help us grow to, as of now, we exist in 195 countries in 108 languages. That's sufficient. And we're not setting up stores across. And we have to buy a store. We have to, produce things over there. So we're away from all of that. We are a community service. It's more like when a charity starts, charities take up loads of spaces and they function out of those spaces. Whereas we're trying to minimize that. Even if we do become something big, we will get an office somewhere so people can reach out to us over a period of time. Because, but when, let's say, if you put in your grandmother's details, those details will be with us. If you want to make any changes, you will write back to us. We will need an infrastructure or people to start doing those changes. Because as of now, we won't allow you to go back into a profile. Otherwise, every Tom, Dick, and Harry can get into a profile and make changes how and what they want. And that's what we restrict. That you've given us the profile, we've kept that information safe, and that's been put up, and nobody can make changes except yourself or somebody later on. Before you moving on, you pass on by saying, this is the next person in kin who will take care of those details if there are any changes that need to be made.
So where there is an eventuality of somebody passing without changing their profile. So you've just mentioned that people don't have to create profiles. You don't need to create usernames and email addresses and things like that to use the website. How does that mitigate the risk of other people going into the same profile and changing it? If I don't have a profile, I don't have
Okay.
a username, I don't have a password, I don't have anything guiding the story that I have put in there.
Okay.
For example, for my grandma, if I want to use it, anybody else can come within the
Right.
family and alter any of my information because it's not protected. I don't have a password to protect it. How do you
Mm.
ensure things like that are not happening?
Right. Penny, I totally understand your concern. However, that's not how it works. It works is once you've given us that information, no other family member can come and no other family member can change or make changes to that profile except yourself. Because once you're doing that, we give you a unique ID that is related to that profile. And once you send us writing to our support system and say, what, I want to make these changes to support, that's the only time. If we give it to you, which means the chances of it being, hacked are very high, and we don't want to be hacked by somebody and them making those changes.
Mm.
And that's why we've kept the system very close so that nobody hacks into it, and it's safer than what you think. Because the minute you give email, usernames, and passwords, anybody and everybody will get into it.
Okay, that makes sense now. Right. So, Manoj,
Yeah.
moving forward, what are your lessons learned? What lessons have you learned so far starting this starting the websites? Have you had any specific challenge? I know you've touched on a few previously in the conversation, but what have you learned from all the pitfalls and from all the challenges that you've been through already starting this website?
I think there's a learning every day. Well, sometimes we come back and person would say, you know what? I wish these things were not shown. Yes, you come back and you will give us a load of suggestions. Those suggestions will take time for it to be changed, implemented. Yes, and that needs money for it to be done. Yes, we will make changes. We will grow. If you've seen our website when we started off, it was a plain white thing. And then eventually I came back and I said, you know what? I want to change it. Every time, maybe every few years, we will change the face of it, how it looks. We become better over a period of time. And those are things that we keep learning when it goes out to people. People add more questions. People ask more questions. Like yourself, Kenny. When I started speaking to you, you had questions. You've given me a lot of information to come back and say, hey, why don't I do this? Now, again, your question was that how am I securing it? And we thought of it a lot before about security systems because every time you put in an email and a password, every time that's created, you're creating more enemies around you. You're creating more hackers to be accessing your website. And once the hacker gets into it, which means your information could be deleted, your information could be stolen, your information could just be gone off, and they will just delete it. And what do you do with it? And that's what we wanted to protect. And that's what we've learned over a period of time from other, social media platforms. And that's what keeps happening. Have you ever realized that every time a company goes out and says we are not functioning today, or we've had something to do with the systems? Have you realized they're being hacked? And that's why they are. That's why they're claiming that, and they cannot go out because they cannot state out and openly that we've been hacked. Because if they state that, which means people will stop believing them. People like Microsoft, people like Google, they shut down for about a few hours. Why? Why would you shut down such a big organization which has thousands and thousands of people working, but then everybody gets into it? Somebody or the other is hacking it, and we don't want that.
Okay, that I'm sure of us now. Thank you, Manoj. That's a very good insight to your lessons learned. Um, Another question I was going to ask. I know you touched about community. How are you fostering user community within the platform? Do you have an aspect where people can collaborate within the platform? So an example would be if I had my grandma again on your platform, and I have another family member who also wants to use the same that still also wants to put the same memorial for our grandma. Is there any collaboration in that way where I don't know this person? Because of course you can't know everyone in your
Right.
family. So for other person, if I have another
True.
person who wants to tell the same story which I've already told on the platform, how do I collaborate? How do I contact them to say, okay, this is it. We can grow this memorial which I have done already on my profile. You don't have to
Right.
duplicate that. Is there any sense of
Right.
collaboration? And even with other users. So, for example, I could have my friend who is on the profile as well. I could meet another schoolmate of mine who I just say the name on the on your website, and I just want to communicate with them. I want to understand more about what happened to their loved one. Is there any sort of user
Okay.
collaboration on the website?
Let's go one thing at a time. When he came back about somebody else trying to create another profile for your grandmother, now
Mm.
that's something that we came back and I said, you know what? We don't want that to happen. And that's why we have system checks in the backdrop. And that's why we have checks happening in the backdrop. But that's why we will never let any profile being created. When you give a username and password, then we don't have control over it. Right now, Facebook does not have control over how many profiles one person can create. I can create another email. I can create another profile. I can create million emails and I can create million profiles. And how many of them are real is one question. And that's what we wanted not to happen. That's why we don't have username and password. And if somebody does create another one and send it to us, we will check them with other profiles which have already been created. And before they are, and then once we come back, oh, we've already got it. We will send an email to that person. We're sorry, it's already been created, so we will not go ahead and make this live. And you want to do this. And on top of that, if you go back to our website and if you go looking for somebody's name or even for my last name, you realize one thing, that when you go into a profile, there's a share button. If you take that share, click on that share, you can copies into your thingy, and you can put into anything, WhatsApp, your email, or anything that you want. You can share with everybody across the world. So that's one part of it. The
Okay.
other part is trying to connect with
Yeah.
friends.
I just wanted to know. So I can share a link of any user from that, or any story or any memorial. I can click, I
Yes,
copy.
yes, any memorial, anything. Yes.
So it means that there is no privacy around my the whatever information I put on there. So if I put my grandma's memorial in there,
Mhm.
anybody can go in, click it without my consent. Is that what you're talking about?
They can only see it. They cannot make changes to it. First of all, the family member is deceased. What does somebody do with the deceased family member's details? What can he do with it? You don't have a bank account. You don't have any medical history that you can go back and make changes. You
Um,
cannot do anything. You cannot go ahead and create another NI number. You cannot do anything with them. They're dead. Their information's dead. It is as good as the person's dead.
it's
Information's dead, so it's of no use. It's just for the next of kins to know who these people were, and
mm,
that's our motive, not for us to, and by that you also come back, start to understand that you need to understand that when it's being shared to other people, you need to come to an understanding your family member is becoming famous. Your
mm,
family member is being looked at across the world. People want to know the story. That is the thing. Why do you pick up a newspaper? To read the stories across the world, what's happening? And that's why newspapers were brought in. Why would they want to put out information which is not necessary? And that's the reason why actors or movie stars or football players, they want it to be going around because they want to be famous. And if your family member is becoming famous, kudos to you. It's a good thing. Be happy about it, right? Nobody's taking your data. Nobody's stealing your data because, Kenny, we're not using your data. It's not yours. It's only the deceased family member's data. And their data is not going to harm anybody. Now, this is not a platform to connect with friends. This is not a family. This is not Facebook. We're not Facebook. We're not a competition to Facebook. Facebook, you want to do that? Please go to Facebook. This is not for that. On top of that, what we do, what we are building on in it is we're creating a family tree. Everybody who dies will be connected eventually. Let's say your grandmother, right? She's gone. Now you put in, or is your brother puts in a relative, somebody else. Now we will connect it and we go ahead and ask those questions. And then once we hear that, once we get that, we connect them to them. So which means it'll become a bigger, huge family tree that you can come back and start locating where
mm,
these people were.
amazing. So moving forward to your visions. Would you like to share some
Uh-huh.
of the future visions you have for Life Index? What how do you see it in the bigger picture? Is this just what you've done now? Do you just want to continue with that, or do you have a bigger vision for it?
We definitely have a bigger vision. We definitely want to serve the community. Definitely want, I don't want somebody to go away like my mom. If I would have known about my mom's mom had cancer before she went away, we could have taken those measures a lot faster and she could have lived longer, a healthier life. The worst part is I got to see my mom struggling in the past of the early years or a few days before going away. I would not want that to happen for anybody. And that's why we want to bring that medical information so that every family member can start taking those measures. If you've not realized it, if somebody's committed suicide in your family, that is engraved in your DNA, and you have a depression issue which will keep coming in. And if that keeps coming in and it keeps happening, which means other family members will keep doing this over and over again and again. How do you protect yourself? How do you know that it's running in the family if you don't have a history of them? If you don't have a medical history? If you don't know what is the dial? We want to save that from happening. I would not want that to happen for anybody. Now I know about my mom. I will pass it on to my daughter, and that information is passed on, and she will pass it on to several other generations. And this website will pass it on to several different generations, and they will keep making sure that they are safe and protected before they get into it. We cannot eradicate any disease or any disorder, but we can always bring it to prevention.
Thank you for that. Manoj, it's been a very touching moment because from what you've been saying, I have been also I've been reflecting on people who have passed on. So I've had families, I've had uncles. I recently, just about, I think that was before COVID or just in between COVID,
Right.
my uncle passed away. And that was
I'm so
true
sorry.
as well. My aunt passed away through cancer as well, a few years ago, and
Yeah.
this this just reflects back to understanding that these people. So my uncle passed away in the US, and since then I've not really had any sort of touch with writing or his memorial. I know his kids may want to do that, but of course, he was very close to me as well. He was one of my closest uncles and family that I have, and it
Yeah.
just brings me to understanding. So, with these are a lot of people that will be going on your website. They would have some emotional connection with people whom they are writing their stories and memorial on Life Index. How
Right.
do you, as a platform, how do you support people going through this emotional period? For anyone to come to your website to put anything, they must have some emotional
Mhm.
connection. And as a platform, how are you supporting people's emotional support and giving emotional support or giving advice on the website to
Right.
support people in this situation?
So once we do grow, once we do have enough funds coming in, we will get them connected to the right people who take care of these kind of things. I'm not a professional at it. I could not take care of myself during that time, so I'm no professional. We would have professionals come on board and start using those details or started using that information. And that's why we're asking for a very meager amount, £7 to support us and those people that we get on board so that those people are there to support because at the end of the day, we're building a community of people losing other people. We are connected, no matter how it is, but we are connected. And when somebody goes away, we do feel the pain. I remember a long time ago, there was this accident that I saw, and my mom and dad both are healthy at that time. And when I saw that accident, it was some elderly couple. And when I saw that accident, I realized I started crying because you know what? That emotion kicked in. What happens to my parents? And that happens to all of us, be whoever we are. Even the minutest of us, we're humans. And that human touch gets us so emotional, whoever it is. At times, I might even end up crying for a neighbor's dog passing by because it's not about us being inhumane. It's just about us being human.
Absolutely. And what would you like to tell the viewers today in terms of if they want to go on your website, if they want to put some memorials, what would you advise them? And also, what would you say to them regarding how to protect themselves from um, website hacks and data protection in using your website? I believe that you have enough security to support them, but what would you say to people, viewers,
Right.
if they want to go on your website to put in their memorials, family
Yeah.
memorials?
First of all, we're not taking anybody who's alive, we're not taking your details. So your data is totally safe. If you're putting a deceased family member's details, those deceased family members' details are gone with them. We're just preserving them and their stories for future generations. It's also preserving their little legacy of what they had as far as their diseases, their disorders, so that it can be passed on to protect the next generations. And that's the only thing that we're doing. So don't shy away, use it. It's a very simple website, and that's why we've kept it very simple. That's why we don't want you to use username and passwords. Go in, put in your name, put in your email address, click on send. You get an email, you get a form within a few seconds. Fill that form. It takes about 5 minutes to the max. Fill that form and that comes back to us. Once we verify it, it takes us about 24 hours to 72 hours to verify. Once that's done, it will be made live. You will get an email confirming that it's already gone live and you can start sending it out to your family members or friends, whoever they are, and ask them to start writing because it's very important that you collect that about people. Thoughts are very important. So it's a perfect time, perfect place. We've had about 2 years of COVID. we've lost loads of people. In the past 50 years, we've lost 109 billion people across the world. Let's save them. Let's make them legacy. Let's immortalize them. Let's commemorate them. It's the perfect time. £7 is not going to hurt anybody. And that's why I've kept it very simple.
Thank you very much, Manoj. Finally, do you have any
You're
word
welcome.
for people? This website, as you know, is to grow young entrepreneurs, getting small businesses together and giving them a voice to speak about how they started and what their journeys are, what their challenges are. What advice would you give to someone who may be thinking in their homes to start a business?
I would suggest if you have an idea, don't pull yourself back. Sit down and start working on it. Because that's what they say, right? You can't learn to swim by being on the beach. You can only learn to swim once you've jumped into the ocean. And that's when you start learning how to swim. I've lived in Africa. In Africa, everybody becomes a swimmer because they keep diving into the water and they keep swimming their way out. Nobody's a professional swimmer, but over a period of time, they learn things.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Thank you very much, Manoj. Thanks for joining us today, and we do
You're
appreciate it.
welcome.
It's been an
Thank you
emotional
very much.
day, but
Pleasure.
of course,
Yeah.
it's so
Thank you.
wonderful having you on board today. Thank you, and have a good time. Bye.